Welcome back. This video is going to focus on graphing a quadratic in Vertex form. And what I want you to notice is that the pages that I'm going to be working on in your notebook are pages 46 to 48 for just kind of the first run through of notes. And then I will do the you try section as well in the video. Last time I got a little bit mixed up on those two sections. Sorry about that. And then I will not be recording the homework lesson for this, which are on pages 51 to 53. So those pages you can do on your own, and then check the key posted on Canvas for the notebook key. But if you have questions, please reach out to your teacher. They are there to help you out, and I know they would be happy to help you. So let's get started on graphing quadratics in Vertex form. And I want you to notice that there is a formula here that you need to know. And this formula is really important for this section, and it would be anticipated by your teacher that you know this formula and you know it well. So make sure that you memorize that formula. There are really three important parts to the formula. And the first one is this letter A. We're going to talk about that, and then we're also going to talk about H and K. And it actually says right here, I'll do that part first, but your H and your K in your formula, those two letters identify the numbers that represent the vertex of your quadratic. And then for number 2, it says plot the vertex on the coordinate plane. You would get that from your formula here. So let's just talk about that, what you see in the equation, the H and K, before you would plot it. Your H in your equation will have opposite sign as the H in your vertex. Notice how this formula has a minus sign there. So the H in the vertex will be the opposite sign as what you see. And I'll show you that with examples. And then your K in the equation has the same sign as your K in the vertex. Okay, so those are really important things. Please make sure that you memorize that. And then, like I said, the A in the front is really important, and that is really addressed down here. So let me bring this down right here to this point. You will plot your additional points using the A and the pattern that we talked about in our investigation video. And remember, from the vertex, when you go from the vertex out 1, you went up 1, and then out 2, you went up 4, and then out 3, you went up 9, because we're talking about squares in this unit, so that should kind of make sense that your up goes the square of that value. But your A value will change how much you go up. So notice how it says up here. Notice this is also true if you had a negative, you would then just go down. So I'm actually going to write a little note here that if you had a negative A, you would go down. And then you'll just connect your points with a parabola. So let's talk about this first example here. It's example number 1, and you have this equation, y is equal to, in parentheses, x plus 4 squared minus 1. In this example, I wrote it down here just a little bit larger for you to see, but I wanted to reflect that this problem does have an A value even though it's not necessarily written, because the number that would be multiplying by this group in parentheses would be the number 1. So in this case, our A, even though it's not actually written down, would be the number 1. So I'm just going to outline our A, our H, and our K from the formula up above. And that means that our A would be this value 1. Our H would be the number 4. And our K would be the number -1. But I did make note up here that the opposite sign is used for the H in our vertex, so I want you to know that my H in this equation is actually equal to -4. So in my vertex, I'm going to use -4 and -1 for my H and my K of my vertex. Now I've actually already plotted this point on the grid over here off to the right. And now what I'm going to do is start building the rest of my graph based on this table up here and using the A value that was in our equation. So we're going to go over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9 from the vertex, because if our A is 1, those values are not going to get altered. So I'm going to write down here that if I'm going to make additional points from the vertex, if my A is equal to 1, I'm going to use over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9. And now what I'm going to do is plot those points. So from my vertex in both directions, I'm going to go over 1 and then up 1. So from my vertex right 1, up 1, and from my vertex left 1, up 1. So that's my first set of points that have symmetry about the vertex. Now I'm going to go over 2 and then up 4. So from my vertex over 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. From my vertex over 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. There is another couple set of points around my vertex. And then over 3 in each direction, 1, 2, 3, and up 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then in the other direction, 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you connect those points, you're gonna get a nice curvy parabola. And now I'm gonna fill out the information over here. The minimum point that we have for our vertex, which is already labeled here, is -4, -1. And because our A is the number +1, our graph is going to open up. The axis of symmetry is the invisible line. You don't necessarily draw it every time, but it would be the line that cuts your parabola in half, and it goes right through your vertex. And that vertical line is always the number x that you have from your vertex. So my x value is -4, so my vertical line is going to be x equals -4 for my axis of symmetry here. And then I drew that. And the x-intercepts, the 2 points that I have where my parabola touches my x-axis, those 2 points are going to be x-intercepts. One of them is at -5, and the other one is at -3. Now what I'm going to do is go on to the next page. This was page 46 in the notebook, so I'm going to finish up with pages 46 through 47. So at the top of page 47, we have this next example here. And I'll draw it just so that it's a little bit easier for you to see with this sunlight coming in here on my table. So this is our equation. Y is equal to -3. That's our A. And then in parentheses, x minus 2 squared, and then plus 3. My A in this case is equal to -3. My H in this case is opposite sign here, so +2. And my K is the same sign, it's equal to +3. So my vertex is at +2, +3. I'm going to start just by graphing that point over here on my grid. So 2, 3 would be this point here. And now as I'm looking at my A, because my A is the number -3, I'm going to have a new up and then kind of a new set of points here because my A is going to alter this 1, 4, and 9. So I'm going to use that A of -3 and I'm going to alter based on this chart. So from my vertex, if my A is equal to -3, that means my graph is going to open down like this. So over 1, and now I'm going to go down -3 times that 1, so down 3. And then over from my vertex 2, and then down -3 times that 4 that we usually have, which is going to be down 12. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to go much past that on this grid. As I'm looking at my point then, I'm going to go from my vertex over 1 and down 3, 1, 2, 3. And then on the other side, down 3. From my vertex, I'm going to go over 2 and then down 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then in the other direction, over 2 and then also down 12. If I connect these points with a smooth curve, that'll be our parabola. Right in the middle will be our axis of symmetry. It's gonna pass through the same x that your vertex has. So that equation is going to be x is equal to +2. Our vertex is the highest point on the graph, which means that we have a maximum. The graph opens downward, and again, that's because my a is negative. And I do have two x-intercepts on my grid. The two numbers that my x-intercepts would be a +1 and a +3. Now I have one more example on this page. The equation here, I'll write it just so you can see it maybe a little bit better. My a in this case is 1. There's no number in front, so we can assume that we can use the number 1. Because 1 times whatever we have, that's not going to change. And then I'm going to use a of 1 and h that is the opposite sign, so +3, and the k has the same sign, -1. So my vertex for this problem is going to be 3, -1. And I'm going to graph that point on my grid. Because my a is positive, I know that my graph is going to open upward. So I'm going to write down open up, and I know that if I have a graph opening up, I'm going to have a minimum on my graph as well. So as I'm looking at this vertex point, I'm going to use from my vertex over 1 up my a, which is 1 times 1, over 2 up 1 times 4, so just 4, and over 3 up 1 times 9, which will just give us 9. So I'm going to start plotting those points from my vertex in both directions. Go over 1 and up 1, over 1, up 1, over 2 from the vertex, so 1, 2, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1, 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again over 3, up 9. Connect those points and you'll get your parabola. In the middle, right in the middle through your vertex is going to be your axis of symmetry. Don't forget to draw it because it says draw it. That's going to be the vertical line that has the same x as your vertex, so +3. And the two values that we have for our x-intercepts, looking at my grid, would be an x value of 2 and another one at 4. All right, we're almost done with the note section for this. So I want you to flip the page and go to the very last question on page 48. So again, page 48. So this equation is -2, x plus 1 quantity squared plus 8. My a is -2, and if your a is negative, that means your graph is going to open downward. So I'm going to write open down, and this graph is going to have a maximum. And then my vertex, my h, and my k are in my formula, but don't forget h is opposite sign, so I'm actually going to write that down, -1. And then my k is +8. Go ahead and graph that point, -1 up 8. Now from my vertex, if my a is equal to -2, I'm going to go over 1. And instead of up, because I said already it's going to go down, we're going to go down my a, which is -2, times my normal movement of 1. So that's going to be down -2. Then we're going to go over 2. Normally we go down 4, but I need to multiply that by my -2. So that's going to be down 8. And then over 3, normally we go down 9, but I have to multiply that by -2. So down 18. So from the vertex point that I have here, sorry, my sun is kind of cutting off this picture a little bit, the shadow here, but from our vertex, we want to go over 1, down, down 2, 1, 2 here, over 1, down 2, and then over 2, down 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And over 2 down the same amount. and then over 3 down 18. So if this was 8, then 10 is going to be right down here at the bottom. Let me count that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Perfect. And then likewise in the other direction. Connect those points with your parabola, your smooth curve. My two x-intercepts that I see here, I have one at +1 and another at -3. And then my axis of symmetry, which I haven't drawn yet, but here it is, will have the same x as my vertex, and it goes through the x-axis at -1. So that vertical line, again, same as the x of my vertex, would be at -1. Now, if you want to go ahead and try the homework assignment in the book, I've labeled it on this front page, pages 51 to 53. You can actually go ahead and do that now if you feel confident, but I will also record the U-Try problems on page 49 and 50, just for those of you that need that additional support. It is our expectation that you do these practice pages, and then whatever your teacher has for your homework assignment, whatever exit ticket or Math Excel, make sure that you complete that assignment for today's lesson. So those of you who want to hear the U-Try section, so I'm going to come over here to page 49, the U-Try. I'll go ahead and try to work through these other problems. So on this problem, you'll see over here, I'll write it just a little bit bigger for you to see. Our A is 1, x minus 3, quantity squared minus 9. Our A here is 1. H is the opposite sign that you see here with your x, so it's going to be +3. And K is the same sign here. So 3, -9 is our point. So I'm going to put that point on my grid. There's my vertex. Now my A is 1, +1, so I know my graph is going to open up because A is a positive. And then we're just going to follow our normal pattern. If A is 1, then these numbers are not going to change. So we're going to go up 1, 4, and 9. So from our vertex, we're going to go over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, and over 3, up 9. I know that if my graph is opening up, that my vertex is going to be the minimum, so I'm just going to circle that, and now I'll start putting my points on my grid. So from my vertex, I'm going to go in each direction over 1 and up 1, and then over 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then over 3, up 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Connect these with a smooth, curvy U shape, and then don't forget that right in the middle, going through that vertex, is going to be a vertical line called the axis of symmetry that cuts your picture right in half. So that axis of symmetry has the same x value as our vertex, so it's the vertical line at x equals 3. And the 2 points that cross through my x-axis here are going to be the points 0 and number 6. If you wanted to, you could write it 0, 0 and 6, 0, but I think it's perfectly fine to just write 0 and 6. All right, now we have just a couple more of these. Here for this equation, you'll see you have a negative out front, so that's -1. So my A is -1, so that means this graph is going to open down because my A was a negative. My H is going to be -2, and my K is +4. I'm going to plot this point first, -2, 4. And if I know my graph is going to open down, then I'm going to go from my vertex. If my A is equal to -1, it's going to be over 1 down 1, over 2 down 4, and over 3 down 9. My graph should have, from my vertex, then if I'm going down, a maximum point at my vertex, and I set it open down. So now I'm going to start plotting my points here. From my vertex, over 1, down 1 on each side, over 2, down 4, and over 1, 2, 3, down 9. So if I already went 4, I need to go 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it'll match symmetry 1 over in the same amount. My axis of symmetry should cut right down that vertex in the middle of my picture. And that line should have the same x as my vertex, so -2. And the two x-intercepts that I have here would be -4 and 0. If you want to write it like this without the word and, just do not put parentheses around that, because we don't want the point -4, 0. We want 2 points actually, so either use the word and or use a comma and no parentheses, or separate your points with like 2 separate sets of parentheses. Okay, now the U-try section, I believe, has just a couple more problems on page 50. So these are the last 2 for the U-try section. I'm gonna try to move this to cut through that shadow a little bit better. Okay, so at the top of page 50, here's kind of a funky equation. I'm actually gonna rewrite this equation, and this is the one that I have in my notebook. I'm not gonna graph the horizontal line at 26 because my graph doesn't even go that high. I'm so sorry about this error. So let's actually just do a new picture, and instead let's change it to this. I'm gonna use -2 since we haven't done one going down 2, I think, yet. And then in parentheses, x minus 5 quantity squared plus 8. My a is equal to -2, my h is equal to +5, and my k is equal to +8. I know that if my a is negative, that my graph is going to open downward, so I'm going to put that down here. And that also means that my vertex is going to be the maximum. My vertex is going to be h comma k, again opposite sign for the h, so +5 and then +8. So over at 5 and then up 8 would be this point here. And now what I'm going to do is find from my vertex that pattern of change, my slope, but it's not really slope because it changes here, but my rate of change is going to be affected by my a value of -2. So I'm going to take 1 times -2 and go down, 4 times -2 and go down, and then 9 times -2 and go down to get my grid. So from the vertex, if a is equal to -2, I'm going to go over 1 and down -2 times 1, over 2 down -2 times 4, and over 3 down -2 times 9. This is going to be -2, -8, and -18. So for this picture over here, I'm going to start going over 1 and down 2, over 1 down 2, and then over 2 down 8, and over 2 down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then over 3 down 18. So that was 8 so far, so I need to go down 10 more. So 10 more, and over 3, I went down 8, so go down 10 more. Connect these with your smooth U-shaped curve. Try not to make it look V-shaped, make sure it's curvy. And then now I'm gonna fill in my axis of symmetry, so that vertical line that cuts my parabola in half, it will have the same x as your vertex here. So that x value would be 5. And the 2 x-intercepts that I see, I have 1 at 3 and 1 at 7. All right, hang in there, only 1 more to go. So this equation, we have -1, x minus 4, that quantity is squared plus 9. A here is -1, so our graph is going to open downward because that's negative. My h is going to be a +4 and my k +9. So from our vertex, I have, if my A is equal to -1, we're going to go over 1, down 1, over 2, down 4, and over 3, down 9. So from that chart that we had, if my A is 1, it's not going to affect the 1, 4, 9. It's just going to mean we're going to go down instead of up. So this point 4, 9 would be almost to the top of my grid. And I'm going to go on each side over 1, down 1. Then I'm going to go down 4. And then from there over 3, and then down 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Connect those. Do you think you can guess how far down we would go for the next one if we went over 4? If the pattern is squaring, how far would you go down? You'd go down 16. This max of our grid is a max because it's the highest point on the picture. My axis of symmetry is going to have the same x as my vertex, so that vertical line is going to cut right through the middle, again passing right through that 4. It's going to open down, and we do have 2 x-intercepts here. We have one at +1 and the other at 7. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's helping you study, and I hope you're healthy and safe. Don't forget to do whatever homework assignment that your teacher has assigned, okay? Good job.